Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, on our Friday the 13th edition, I will be interviewing the star of Friday the 13th 5, New Beginning, Melanie Kinnaman. I am so excited. She's like the third person from that movie I have interviewed. I've also interviewed Tiffany Helm and Deborah Voorhees, and now I get to interview Melanie Kinnaman, the final girl, who was supposed to be in part 6, and then she was written out. And I'm pretty excited today to talk to her about that and her early years dancing and some other roles and stuff. It's going to be a totally radical Friday the 13th. It's going to be pretty cool. And I just hope this whole day in general won't suck, because I had a really bad Friday the 13th back in April, which I won't go into. But yeah, here is my interview with Melanie Kidman. Totally radical. Once again. Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Hey, happy Friday the 13th. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am just ecstatic. It's such an honor because Friday the 13th movies have always been my go-to horror franchise since I was 8 years old, and you're the most beautiful of the final girls, so I thank you for making me feel lucky today.
Oh, aren't you sweet? I'm the lucky one to get to talk to you, and the fans are listening on this great day.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, I know you started out as a dancer. How old were you when you began dancing?
I started studying at age 4, believe it or not, and then professionally I was dancing by the age of 7. And then I went to New York as a teenager and did a lot of shows. So that's really how it started.
Well, that's not unusual. I started performing at the age of 4, doing doing comedy and acting.
Okay.
So I can relate to that. Now, a lot of dancers I know, they have very messed up feet. Do you have messed up feet?
No, I don't. I've been very lucky. I don't have messed up feet, and I don't have any aches and pains yet in my body. Like a lot of my dancer friends, their knees and their backs have gone out, but I don't have any of that. Knock wood. I'm knocking my head. And I'm still teaching. I teach dance here in Los Angeles, part-time. And so and most of my students are teenagers, 15, 16 years old, and they have aspirations to be professionals. So it's a lot of fun to work with them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you do every type of dancing?
Yes, I do, but I'm teaching ballet and jazz at this time. I used to teach tap also, but there's really a high market for the ballet and the jazz because it's the basics. That from that, everything springs from that. It goes from the basic learning. Everything comes from that, like hip-hop and everything. So if they can do ballet and jazz, they can do a lot of things.
Oh, it's extraordinary. That is so great. When did you decide you were going to go into acting?
Well, I always wanted to be an actress, and I really used the singing and dancing to get me in the door. And then I had to prove myself as an actress, and I started acting in theater in New York pretty young, and then I did a lot of commercials also because of that, and it propelled me into getting more dramatic roles in theater in New York City, and then I came to Los Angeles and got some films and television.
Yeah, you did a lot of commercials. You did Dr. Pepper.
I did. I was dancing in Dr. Pepper commercials, yeah.
Did you ever work with David Naughton?
No, I didn't. I did it before David Naughton.
Wow.
I was the character before David Naughton, where we did a series of, there's stuff with me dancing on a piano and all kinds of stuff. So that was just before David Naughton did the Pepper.
Wow, crazy.
It is, yeah.
It says here you did an episode of Saturday Night Live where you played Cheryl Ladd.
Yeah, they did a spoof on, back in the day, Battle of the Network Stars was a big show.
Yeah.
And so they spoofed that. And with Belushi played Charlie from Charlie's Angels. And there were different characters. It was pretty funny. It was a funny skit. It
Yeah.
only aired once, and the musical guests that night were the Rolling Stones. So I'll
Yep.
never forget it.
Yeah, that must have been interesting with those guys.
Unbelievable. And I mean, working with Belushi and Gilda Radner, it was just such a great experience. I'm sorry it was only the one time, but it was good enough. It was a one-shot thing. It was one skit that they were doing.
Yeah, I heard Dan Aykroyd say in an interview once that night after the show, him and Keith Richards went to Studio 54 and they saw David Bowie there.
Yep, they went and did a lot of stuff. And I went out with Carrie Fisher and the group. She was there backstage. It was pretty wild time.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. It's one of my favorite eras of Saturday Night Live, too.
That time, the early stuff.
Yeah. From there, you did episodes of General Hospital and Hill Street Blues, and then you did the underrated cult classic Thunder Alley.
Yes, where I got to work with Leif Garrett, who became a very good friend. He was a lot of fun. It was a strange shoot. It wasn't, with the exception of the cast, they made it fun, but it wasn't. It was a difficult shoot. The director wasn't very nice, and he was a novice, so he took on a task that he didn't really know how to perform. So we all kind of banded together, and we ended up making it, having a good time.
Yeah. Well, he wrote the movie, and
Yeah.
writers when they direct, they don't have very good attitudes, I've heard.
Yeah, I found that out. I didn't know, because I haven't had that many bad experiences, but the only two experiences I've had that were difficult were with people that wrote the script and then directed, but they weren't really directors, so.
Mm-hmm. But it's got a great cast, though. Roger Wilson,
Yeah.
Jill
Guys were all
Sholin.
good.
Yeah. Jill Sholin, Clancy Brown, Cindy Eilbacher.
Yep.
Her and her sister Lisa both disappeared after the 80s.
I know, go figure. And Clancy Brown is just the greatest.
Yeah. He's a very good actor. He played Frankenstein's monster in The Bride that same year.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. He is a great actor, and he hasn't disappeared. I actually think he should be doing more, but that's the nature of the business. You just don't know. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah. And Jill Sholin, she must have been great to work with.
Yeah, I didn't know her well. We didn't have scenes together, so I've just in the last couple of years met her and got to know her at the convention circuit. Mm-hmm. I didn't know Jill on that set of that, which is so funny.
Wow.
I was friendly most with Roger and Leif Garrett and Clancy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's had a very versatile career too, not just in horror, too, which is amazing. But yeah, I always thought that you were great in the movie.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
I tried my best.
Of course. And, of course, Friday the 13th, Part 5, New Beginning, comes into play. How did you get the role of Pam?
Well, I auditioned like everybody else, and they brought me back again, and in the room were Danny Steinman and producers from Paramount. And the final thing was they asked me to improv a scene in which I'm being murdered. Mm-hmm. No dialogue or anything. So I did that. When I finished, I kind of came out of it and looked up at them, and their eyes were giant. And so I thought, well, I think I must have done a good job here. So I got up and shook everybody's hand and left, and they called me an hour or two later and said I had the role.
Wow. And that, Pam, she was a departure from all the other final girls because she was mature and older, whereas the others were teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was a kid, when the USA Network, they would show a lot of the Friday the 13th movies during like a weekend marathon, and that's how I discovered this one, and it's always been one of my favorite sequels because of the killings.
Oh, that's great.
They're so
we tried something different with the Roy, But, I commend them for trying something different, whether it worked or not. Changing the, departure from Jason. But apparently they weren't happy with that, and they went back to Jason.
Yeah. I love when Corey Parker's friend gets the road flare in his mouth and his cheeks light up.
Right.
I love that. When I had Deborah Voorhees on, I told her how much I loved when her boyfriend gets the belt strap around his eyes with the tree branch, and she said, I would have liked a little bit more cracking of the skull so it could kill him faster.
Lovely.
Yeah. I love Deborah. We spent like an hour and a half just laughing out loud.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Nice girl. I met her, hooked up with her again after all these years at a convention we did. We did 2 together in the last year. So it was nice to see her.
Yeah, I could tell just by talking to her during that hour that she's a very special lady.
Yeah.
And I also had Tiffany Helm on twice, and she's awesome, but she has a dark sense of humor like I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Jason gave her a second belly button in the movie.
That's right. She's funny.
Yeah, I think if I could be killed by Jason, I'd like him to tickle me to death.
That's interesting.
Well, I'm such a wuss when it comes to pain. That's why.
Gotcha.
I told somebody that last night, and she was like, "Yeah, but what if he pulls a fast one on you and he rips out your heart?" I was like,
wow.
"Yeah." I was like, "Oh, I didn't think of that one."
A good one.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite killing in the movie?
No, I was just glad I was the one that didn't get killed. I'm happy I'm the one that's living, so. No, I'm not big on the killings. I'm big on the survival.
Yeah. Were you bummed at all that you weren't in part 6?
Well, I was signed to do it. John and I were both signed to do it because part 6 was going to pick up where part 5 left off that last scene. Mm-hmm. And then John decided a month later that he didn't want to do any more Friday the 13th. So they had to rewrite and write us out.
Wow, that sucks.
But we were planning on doing it. I would have been very happy to do part 6.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite sequel because it's got a lot of hilarious comedy in it.
Yeah.
But that's sad that you didn't get to do it, though.
Yeah, but that's what happens. That's showbiz.
Yeah.
Always surprises.
Yeah. I love how Shaver Ross introduces you as his girlfriend.
That's right.
That's so cute.
He's very cute. I'm friends with him. He's a very good guy, so I get to talk to him quite a bit.
Yeah, that was at the time that he was playing Gary Coleman's friend Dudley on Different Strokes.
That's right. Yeah.
And then he went on to play Weasel on Family Matters, which he was hilarious on that show. And stuff.
Yeah, he was. He's very talented.
Yeah. I think that Ethel and Junior, they steal the movie.
I think so.
Yeah.
They're both great in that.
Yeah, they're just hilarious. Were they great to work with?
Very great. Both of them. Very great actors. And nice people.
Mm-hmm. Not at all like their characters.
No, of course not. Nobody is.
Yeah, that's generally the case.
Yeah.
I was doing research and I found out John Shepard actually went on to do an episode of the Friday the 13th anthology series.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Pretty funny. Yes, he did.
Does he ever do conventions?
He did one with me at, no, we did 2. He did Texas Frightmare with me, and then the last one we did together was last November at Horror House.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't do that many.
Yeah. Ever since I got into the convention scene, I haven't seen him. That's why I was curious.
He's only done the 2, yeah.
I own the posters for Friday the 13th, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. I don't like the poster for part 5. because it doesn't like have Jason's like mask on it. It just has like this cheesily drawn writing,
Yeah.
But I actually love the VHS cover where it does have Jason's mask through that red light glowing. Yeah.
Right. Well, they do have a poster like that out.
It's very hard.
The Australian poster is really nice. The one that says, "If Jason still haunts you." And It's got a picture of John with a sword. I like that one.
Yeah, it's very
hard.
There
are a few Part 5 posters, foreign ones that are really good.
Yeah, I love those ones. But yeah, that one though is really hard to find though. I've been trying to find that on eBay. Was it a physically demanding role for you though?
Very much so. Yeah, very long hours, a lot of running, and very cold. So it was difficult. Yeah, but it was fun.
Did you know in advance you were going to do that? Did you like work out or anything?
No, I was always a dancer, so I was always in shape. But no, they don't tell me anything in advance. I just showed up, and they told me that day.
Yeah, and then you realized it was once the day was over. You're like, oh, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah, and it was every day of running like that for. I think we shot that scene for about a week, so a lot of running.
Wow. And what was Danny Steinman like to work with?
He was okay. He was difficult, but he was okay. I mean, he was respectful to me, but he was difficult in that he wasn't really directing me in those scenes. So I kind of did what I felt was best, and then if he didn't like it, he'd say that he didn't like it and try something else. But it was basically me trying different things and seeing how they felt and how they worked. And most of the stuff worked, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. If you had done part 6, you would have worked with Tom McLaughlin, who's a really crazy and eccentric guy.
That would have been a lot of fun. Yeah, I've met him, and he's a very cool guy. It would have been fun, but it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I had heard this rumor that Danny Steinman, after he did Savage Streets before this movie, and there was a rumor that he wanted Linnea Quigley to play Violet, but the reason she didn't was because the studio didn't want 2 people from Return of the Living Dead, because McGill Nunez was in it too.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Yeah, seems kind of strange. I think they should just hire the right person for the role. But as it turns out, I think the cast for Part 5 was perfect. Everybody that was cast was perfectly cast.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everybody is just perfectly cast, You see certain movies, and there's always at least 1 or 2 people who seem out of place, but this is one of those rare instances where everyone was cast perfectly.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And then after you did the movie, you did a guest starring role on an episode of Wes Craven's short-lived series, The People Next Door.
Yes. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a great time shooting that. It's unfortunate it didn't go, but it was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I felt. The cast was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I
went on to do, I did a bunch of other, I did Cheers. I did a bunch of other stuff I was fortunate enough to get, and then I went back to New York and did a lot of theater and just kept auditioning for roles. And I did a handful of independent films, which are still in the can, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully they'll be released.
Nice. But did you have any interaction with Wes Craven?
No.
No. You never got to meet him or anything at a convention?
Oh, yes. But there wasn't a lot of interaction.
Nice. Yeah, I actually watched your Cheers episode last night on Netflix because I wanted to see it. Yeah, I laughed my ass off. It was a pretty funny episode.
It was a great experience working with those people. It was a whole week just to do that little bit there. It was a whole week of rehearsal and then shooting in front of a live audience. It was one of the best experiences of my professional life.
Yeah, it was. there was just every line was just like making me laugh out loud in that episode, which is the case with most episodes because it was a very well written show.
Well written show, well directed show, well acted show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, everybody in that cast
Brilliant.
was great.
Brilliant.
Even the guest stars, like yourself.
Well, thank you for that. But the cast, the cast of regulars, brilliant.
Mm-hmm. And they were all nice to work with?
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah,
they take you in like you've been there forever. They treat you like you're one of them, that you're part of the family, and it was just, like I said, a great experience.
Yeah, last year I was at a convention. I met George Wendt. He was a very nice guy.
Great guy.
Mm-hmm.
John Ratzenberger, Kirsty, all of them were great.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad they're...
The only one that was slightly strange was Woody Harrelson, but he was still cool.
Of course, he's Woody.
He was strange.
Yeah, of course he's Woody.
Yeah.
You know, he's become a huge star, and you hear about him all the time, you know, in the press and everything. But you played kind of a mystery girl in Best of the Best.
Well, all of my stuff got cut. You know, it's so funny because I had a series of callbacks for that role. It was a great role, and I worked with Eric Roberts. And I went to the screening, and no one told me I was cut, so I went to the big screening, the cast and crew screening, and the film rolled, and I said, okay, here comes my part. I was with my agent, and the part wasn't there. So I thought, well, they're putting it later, because there were 2 scenes. And long story short, I was cut out of it, but they still have me in the credits. So I play Eric Roberts' girlfriend, and it never made it to the screen.
Wow.
Yeah, I still get paid for it. I still get residuals on it, and I still get credit for it. But I'm nowhere in the film.
Well, at least
at conventions, people bring the poster and have me sign it. It's really hilarious.
Yeah, at least you get the residuals.
Yeah, but you know, I would have preferred being, you know, in the scene. But
of course,
show business is that's the way it is. I've been cut from a lot of stuff, and I've had many friends cut from a lot of things. Fans just don't know that that's what happens, you know, because a lot of people ask me, well, you're not in the film, but your name is there. So I find myself explaining it a lot.
Yeah. I was in a music video a couple of years ago, and I'm seen like in a crowd and everything. You can see me if you like really pause it and everything. And last year I was in Linnea Quigley's documentary she's making, and I had her back on the show a couple months ago, and I asked her if I'm going to be in it, and she's like, I think you will be and stuff, and I hope I am, you know.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to count that as my motion picture debut, you know.
There you go.
But after Cheers, so you said you went back to New York and did theater?
Yes. Yeah.
And
like I said, I still did features here, but they either went straight to video or never came out. So I have a lot of stuff in the can that I've done in the last 2 years, and hopefully they will be released.
Are they horror?
Only 2 are horror.
Mm-hmm.
One's a comedy, and the other 2 are like thriller, but not horror.
Nice. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I'll keep you posted if they're coming out. I'll put it on my page and Twitter and let people know what to look for.
Or you can come back on and talk about them. You know.
That's right. I can let you know, and we can talk about them.
Yeah, a lot of people I noticed who disappeared for a while and then start coming back and doing conventions and stuff. They've gotten a lot of work from signing at conventions.
Yeah.
You know, when did you start doing conventions?
2012, I believe. Very recently. I mean, I haven't. There are people who've done it for 20 years. I started in 2012. I did the Monster Mania, was my first one in Hunt Valley. Mm-hmm. And I did a few in Europe, which were a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping to go back to Monster Mania sometime this year.
Nice. You started a little bit later then, and
Yeah.
by the time you started, the convention craze like really kicked into overdrive, and celebrities started charging for autographs, and the lines got a lot longer than they used to be.
Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Changed a lot.
But you've had a lot of fun doing them.
Oh, I love them. It's great to meet the fans. Nice to see people face to face. You know, and I'm surprised at how much they love Part 5, and that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, are you?
So I appreciate the loyalty.
Of course, yeah. Are you just astounded at like how much of an impact Part 5 has had by like that, because it's loved by so many movie nerds like me?
Yeah, I'm astounded at the loyalty, really, of how much they love it, and they continue to support the cast and the movie, and that's just been a wonderful thing. I really, really appreciate the fans. I want them to know that. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, when I started going to conventions 2 years ago, there are so many movies that I loved from childhood that I would never think would be celebrated at even a horror convention, you know? And
I know.
I'm just astounded by it, you know? And like certain actors I talk to, they're like, my movie is being celebrated at a horror convention. It's not like it's the black and white Dracula and Frankenstein from the 30s, you know?
Right.
They're the new classics now. They're the new classics.
Yeah.
It's just crazy and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that at least you're working and being active, you know. And I hope to meet you at a convention someday when you get booked.
Yes, I hope so. It was great talking to you.
Yes, absolutely, Melanie. This has been a great honor, and I will cherish this forever. And
well, I hope to meet you in person, and thanks for inviting me on your show.
Yes, and I thank you so much for taking the time. Have a happy Friday the 13th, and until then, I'll see you on Facebook.
Thank you so much. Happy Friday the 13th to you and all the fans.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Melanie Kinnaman. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Melanie. You're a very sweet lady, and I'm glad that we got to talk on Friday the 13th. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Ch-ch.